audible to all of you? Friends, am I audible to all? Please message fast. अगर आप सब मेरी आवाज सुन पा रहे हैं तो फटाफट से मैसेज करिए, then we will start our session. दोस्तों, am I audible to all? Please message fast, friends. शिव शंकर, मेरी आवाज क्लियर है आपको तो फटाफट से मैसेज करिए, then we will start the class. We will resume our class. So this is class number 12. This is class number 12 and we will start with our mains economy class, mains economy topics discussion. We had started this class and I hope you all are enjoying it. Just a second, friends. Just a second. Yeah. Good morning to all of you. I hope I am audible to all and I am visible as well to all of you. So this is class number 12. We had discussed till date 11 classes we had done, and this is 12th class, and in these classes we are discussing about economy most important themes or topics for this year's mains 2025. Even this is important for all those who want to attempt in 2026 as well. HYV is high yield variety seeds. तो अब तक हम लोगों ने क्या क्या पढ़ लिया? We had discussed Indian economy and issue related to mobilization of resource, growth, development, unemployment. We had discussed that. We also discussed about inclusive growth. हमने inclusive growth भी पढ़ लिया. We also discussed about land reforms. Land reforms भी हमने पढ़ लिया. Now today we will discuss the most important part that is common in both polity and economy related to government budgeting. आज का जो टॉपिक है वो पॉलिटी और इकोनॉमी दोनों में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है एंड दैट इज गवर्नमेंट बजटिंग. सो विल स्टार्ट इन अ मिनट. लेट्स बिगिन. सो गवर्नमेंट बजटिंग. ओके, गवर्नमेंट बजटिंग, द वर्ड बजट इज नॉट मेंशन्ड एनीवेयर इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. ये जो वर्ड बजट है ये हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में कहीं भी मेंशन नहीं है. हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में क्या मेंशन है? हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में मेंशन है आर्टिकल 110 में एनुअल फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. एनुअल फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. सो व्हाट इज मेंशन्ड इन आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन? इट इज एनुअल फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. It is mentioned as annual financial statement. So the word budget is not mentioned anywhere. जो वर्ड बजट है वो कहीं पर भी मेंशन नहीं है हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में. इट इज मेंशन्ड ओनली एज अ एनुअल फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. It is mentioned only as a annual financial statement, and that too under article 112. That too under article 112, that is annual financial statement. Article 112 as an annual financial statement. So we will discuss the components of budget first. What are the different components of budget? We will discuss them and then we will discuss the further topics for today's class. So annual financial statement has two components. First is revenue component. First is revenue component and another is capital component, or we can say capital budget, revenue budget. We can say capital budget or revenue budget. Revenue budget and capital budget. Now, what is in context of revenue budget? Revenue budget include all those things which are for short-term, day-to-day needs of the government. All the prospect of budget which is for short-term needs of the government, which is fulfilling for day-to-day needs of the government, are the part of revenue budget. So revenue budget include all those things which are for day-to-day components. Day-to-day receipts and expenditure. Day-to-day receipts and expenditure. It is the part of revenue budget. It is the part of revenue budget. Whereas when we talk about capital budget, it is for long-term revenue and expenditure. It is long-term revenue and expenditure. all the long-term revenue and expenditure of the government are included in this capital budget. Are included in this capital budget. Now, revenue budget has further two components. First is revenue receipt, and another is revenue expenditure. Revenue receipt and revenue expenditure. Similarly, capital budget also has two components, that is capital receipt and capital expenditure. Now, capital receipt further has two components. What are the components? First is debt creating capital receipt. Debt creating capital receipt. Another is non-debt creating capital receipt. First is debt creating capital receipt. Another is non-debt creating capital receipt. Debt creating means जैसे आपने कोई लोन लिया, आपने कोई बोरोइंग की, दे आर द पार्ट ऑफ डेट क्रिएटिंग कैपिटल रिसीट. और नॉन डेट क्रिएटिंग कैपिटल रिसीट का मतलब क्या हुआ? नॉन डेट क्रिएटिंग मतलब जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल एनी अमाउंट दैट कम टू यू विदाउट इंक्लूडिंग द डेट, जिससे हम डेट के कंपोनेंट को इंक्लूड नहीं करते. सो वी हैव रेवेन्यू बजट दैट इज फॉर डे टू डे रिसीट एंड एक्सपेंडिचर. वी हैव कैपिटल बजट दैट इज फॉर लॉन्ग टर्म revenue and expenditure. Then revenue budget have revenue receipt and revenue expenditure. Now what is in revenue receipt? The revenue receipt further has tax revenue receipt and non-tax revenue receipt. Non-tax revenue receipt. So we will discuss all of them in detail now. This is in general the diagrammatic representation of the components of the budget. This is a diagrammatical representation of the components of the budget. Okay. Now in detail we will discuss all of them, what all is being included in it, what all are the examples of it. Let's discuss them in detail. अब इनको हम थोड़ा डिटेल में डिस्कस करते हैं. So let's start first with revenue budget. Revenue budget. It refers to that form of budget. It refers to that form of budget which include short term earning and short term expenditure of government. Short term expenditure of government. Now, this revenue budget include, it refers to that form of budget which includes short term earning and short term expenditure of the government. Okay. Now it has further some component. The very first one is revenue receipt. Now what all is being the part of revenue receipt? Revenue receipt, as I told you, has two components. First is tax revenue receipt. Now under this tax revenue receipt, we include all those components that is providing the revenue for the government in taxation form. मतलब इसमें वो सारी चीजें आएंगी जो गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स के फॉर्म में रेवेन्यू क्रिएट करके देती है. All the taxable income of the government fall under the tax revenue receipt. Whereas the second one is non-tax revenue receipt. Now what all is the part of non-tax revenue receipt? Let's discuss them. Okay, Amarjeet, welcome. Varsha, welcome to you also in the class. ठीक है. What we are discussing, हम यहाँ पे मेंस के टॉपिक्स डिस्कस कर रहे हैं जो इस साल के मेंस में जो बच्चे एग्जाम देंगे उनके लिए और 2026 के बच्चों के लिए भी. Thank you so much, Amarjeet. So we have tax revenue receipt and non-tax revenue receipt. These are the two type of revenue receipt. So now let's discuss about non-tax revenue receipt. Non-tax revenue receipt. Now, what all is included in this non-tax revenue receipt? What all is included in this non-tax revenue receipt? The first thing is interest received. First thing is interest received. Now, for example, Government of India has given loan to Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka. Government of India has given loan to them, and Government of India is receiving interest out of it. Or let's say Government of India has given loan to the states of India and they receive interest out of it. They are the part of interest received, non-tax revenue receipt. So Government of India providing loan to other countries, providing loan to other countries or to the states of India and receive interest. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने लोन प्रोवाइड किया, ठीक है, और उस लोन को प्रोवाइड करने पे उनको जो इंटरेस्ट मिल रहा है, दिस इज नॉन टैक्स रेवेन्यू रिसीट. दिस इज द पार्ट ऑफ नॉन टैक्स रेवेन्यू रिसीट. सेकंड, डिविडेंड रिसीव. Dividend received. Now, what is dividend received? Suppose Government of India hold shares in any of the company. Government of India hold shares in any of the company and they receive dividend out of it. Now, what is dividend? Generally, the companies who earn the profit distribute some portion of their profit among the shareholders. जिन कंपनीज को, जो कंपनीज प्रॉफिट कमाती हैं, उस प्रॉफिट में से कुछ हिस्सा वो अपने शेयर होल्डर्स को डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करती है. अब जिसके पास जितने ज्यादा शेयर्स होंगे उसको उतना ही डिविडेंड मिलेगा. जैसे अगर मेरे पास ज्यादा शेयर्स है तो मुझे डिविडेंड ज्यादा मिलेगा, आपके पास ज्यादा शेयर्स है तो आपको डिविडेंड ज्यादा मिलेगा. सो डिविडेंड रिसीव, गवर्नमेंट रिसीव डिविडेंड फॉर द शेयर्स दे होल्ड. For the shares they hold. जो शेयर्स उन्होंने होल्ड कर रखे हैं उस पर उनको डिविडेंड मिलता है. तीसरा, फीस, पेनल्टी एंड फाइन. फीस, पेनल्टी एंड फाइन. गवर्नमेंट रिसीव इनकम थ्रू फीस, पेनल्टी एंड फाइन. फीस, वी आर पेइंग द फीस फॉर यूपीएससी फॉर्म. हम यूपीएससी का फॉर्म भरते हैं, उसकी फीस पे करते हैं. पेनल्टी, सपोज इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का बिल आपने पे नहीं किया या लेट पे किया है तो यू नीड टू पे द पेनल्टी फॉर इट. फाइन, आपने रोड लाइट जो है, रेड लाइट जो है, उसको जंप कर दिया, यू नीड टू पे द फाइन. ऑल दीज आर द इनकम्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. ऑल दीज आर द इनकम्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. फोर्थ, ग्रांट रिसीव्ड. गवर्नमेंट रिसीव एनी फॉर्म ऑफ ग्रांट्स. गवर्नमेंट को कोई ग्रांट रिसीव हुआ, this is also the example of non-tax revenue receipt. So all of them are the example of non-tax revenue receipt. So there are two type of revenue receipt. First is tax revenue receipt, the income that is generated through tax. Second is non-tax revenue receipt, the income that is generated without tax. It include interest receive, it include dividend receive, fees, penalty, fine income, or fourth one is that any kind of grant that they receive is the example of non-tax revenue receipt. Is the example of non-tax revenue receipt. Now, moving ahead, next is what is revenue expenditure? Revenue expenditure. Now, what all is included in revenue expenditure? What all is included in revenue expenditure? Now, revenue expenditure means all those expenditure which is day-to-day expenditure of the government. All the expenditure that is day-to-day expenditure of the government is the part of revenue expenditure. Now, for example, interest paid. Interest paid. Government has taken loan from other countries. Government has taken loan from other countries and they are paying interest. गवर्नमेंट हैज टेकन लोन फ्रॉम अदर कंट्री, भारत ने मान लीजिए किसी दूसरे देशों से लोन लिया, एंड दे नाउ दे आर पेइंग इंटरेस्ट फॉर इट, दिस इज द पार्ट ऑफ रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर. सेकंड, सैलरी एंड पेंशन. Salary and pension. Now government has to pay the salary to their employees, pension to the employees. So all the salary and pension that they need to pay, all the salary and pension, all salary and pension paid to employees, paid to employees is the part of revenue expenditure. Third, subsidies. Government is paying the subsidies to farmers. Government is paying subsidies to farmers. Subsidies to farmers. Government is paying subsidies to farmers. It is also the example of revenue expenditure. Fourth, grant paids. Grants paid. Government is paying grant to the different states, to the different countries. That is also the part of revenue expenditure. So this is the meaning of revenue receipt and revenue expenditure. This is the meaning of revenue receipt and revenue expenditure. So now what is revenue deficit? What is revenue deficit? Revenue deficit is equals to revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. Revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. Revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. This is revenue deficit. This is the meaning of revenue deficit. And what is revenue surplus? What is revenue surplus? This is revenue receipt minus revenue expenditure. Minus revenue expenditure. This is the meaning of revenue deficit and revenue surplus. Revenue deficit मतलब जब सरकार के खर्चे ज्यादा हो जाएं और उनकी इनकम कम हो, एंड रेवेन्यू सरप्लस जब सरकार की इनकम ज्यादा हो और उनके खर्चे कम हो, दैट इज रेवेन्यू सरप्लस. नाउ देयर इज वन मोर टर्म come through FRBM Act, that is effective revenue deficit. Effective revenue deficit. Now what is this effective revenue deficit? What is this effective revenue deficit? नहीं, यहां सेम कैसे, ये रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट है, रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर माइनस रेवेन्यू रिसीट. ये है रेवेन्यू सरप्लस, दैट इज रेवेन्यू रिसीट माइनस रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर. सेम कैसे, यहां पर खर्चा माइनस इनकम है, यहां इनकम माइनस खर्चा है. तो ठीक है, अगर आपकी इनकम 100 रुपए है और खर्चा 50 रुपए है तो सरप्लस है 50 का प्रीतम. अगर आपके खर्चे 200 रुपए के हैं और इनकम 100 रुपए की है तो डेफिसिट है 100 रुपए का. इफेक्टिव रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट. रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट occur because of creation of capital asset is effective revenue deficit. What is effective revenue deficit? Revenue deficit occur because of creation of capital asset. This is effective revenue deficit. I will explain you with a simple example. Suppose government of Uttar Pradesh during Kumbh Mela or during Mahakumbh, Uttar Pradesh government construct temporary toilets. During Mahakumbh, Uttar Pradesh government constructed temporary toilets. As a result of that, open defecation get reduced. As a result of that, open defecation get reduced. Now, this is a kind of a revenue expenditure, but in long term, it is creating a capital asset, or in long term, it will lead to more benefits. This is effective revenue deficit. One more example. Government of Rajasthan told that whoever purchased this is just an example. This is just an example. Let's say government of Rajasthan saying this, we will provide helmet to all the people who will purchase 2 vehicles. All those people who purchase 2-wheelers, we will provide them free helmets. Now, if they're providing the free helmets, they will incur the revenue expenditure, but also it will reduces the accidents. So it is a kind of effective revenue deficit. That means revenue deficit occur because of creating revenue expenditure, but in long term it will lead to creation of capital asset. It will lead to more savings for the government. That is the meaning of effective revenue deficit. Is the example of effective revenue deficit clear to all? No, subsidy cannot be. Subsidy cannot be because subsidy, if you are providing, it is not generating any kind of capital asset. Subsidy is not generating any kind of capital asset until and unless it is for a specific purpose. Okay, so this is the meaning of effective revenue deficit. Now let's talk about capital expenditure. What all is included in capital expenditure? What all is included in capital expenditure? All those expenditure that is done for long term purpose, are the part of capital expenditure. That means expenditure that led to creation of capital asset, is the example of capital expenditure. Now what is capital expenditure? All kind of expenditure that is done for creating long-term prospect, for creating long-term creation of asset is the part of capital expenditure. Like construction of dam, construction of airport, or let's say construction of hospital, all are the example of capital expenditure. That means all those expenditure that is done for long term purpose and that will lead to creation of capital asset. For example, construction of dam, construction of airport, construction of hospital, all these will lead to creation of capital asset in long term. So they are the part of capital expenditure. They all, yeah, that is infrastructure assets, correct. That is correct. That is creation of infrastructure is the part of capital expenditure. Now, what is in capital receipt? What all is included in capital receipt? What all are included in capital receipt? Now, capital receipt has further two components as I mentioned. First is debt creating. Second is non-debt creating. Now, if we talk about the debt creating capital receipt, for example, borrowing. Let's say government of India is borrowing money from US. This is debt creating capital receipt because you need to pay it. You need to pay back it. So capital receipt is of two types. One is debt creating, another is non-debt creating. Debt creating means that you have to pay it back. So borrowing, for example, you are borrowing money from US and you have to pay it back. This is debt creating capital receipt. Another is non-debt creating. Non-debt creating means recovery of loan. For example, Indian government has given loan to Bhutan and now that amount is recovered for government. Government of India has given loan to Bhutan and now that amount is getting recovered. It is non-debt creating. Second one is disinvestment. What is the meaning of disinvestment? Government of India has sell one of its PSU. भारत सरकार ने अपनी कोई PSU बेची और उससे जो पैसा आया, it is a kind of non-debt creating. It is a kind of non-debt creating. I hope it is being clear to you what is debt creating and what is non-debt creating. Debt creating means any kind of borrowing done. Non-debt creating means that is not done in context of borrowing. It has two options: either recovery of the loan, that the loan that you had given, you recovered that amount, and disinvestment. Suppose you sell one of your PSU and receive money out of it. It is non-debt creating. I hope it is being clear to all of you. Any doubt in capital receipt, capital expenditure, revenue receipt, revenue expenditure, please let me know. Yeah, that's correct, Preetham. Sell of your PSU. Selling one of your PSU is the example. Selling one of your PSU is the example. That's true. Okay? Chalo. Moving ahead. What is then fiscal deficit? What is fiscal deficit then? What is fiscal deficit? This term you will see very frequently in the newspaper. Fiscal deficit. What is the meaning of fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit means total expenditure minus total receipt, excluding borrowing. Now, what is the formula for fiscal deficit? Total expenditure, that is revenue expenditure plus capital expenditure, revenue expenditure plus capital expenditure minus total receipt. Now what is in total receipt? Revenue receipt plus capital receipt. Plus capital receipt. But remember this thing, capital receipt include only non-debt creating capital receipt. Capital receipt will include only non-debt creating capital receipt. That means you need to exclude debt creating capital receipt. Exclude debt creating capital receipt. You have to exclude this. It will include only non-debt creating capital receipt. I hope it is being clear to you. So fiscal deficit is total expenditure minus total receipt. That is revenue expenditure plus capital expenditure minus revenue receipt plus capital receipt. And it excludes debt creating capital receipt. Because debt creating, you have to pay it back, Preetham. You have to pay it back, no? So that will not be included in this. And also, when you are including this capital expenditure, this one, here you also include repayment of loan. Here you also include repayment of loan. The loan that you had taken, you have to repay it. So that is also the part of capital expenditure. So if you include this in this part, capital expenditure, then if you also include here also, it will be led to double counting. It will lead to double counting. So that is the reason we include only it here, that is capital expenditure, not there. Otherwise, it will lead to double counting of capital expenditure of this repayment of loan. I hope it is being clear to you all. Now, is it clear to all? What is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit means total expenditure minus total receipt excluding borrowing. And what is in total expenditure? Revenue expenditure plus capital expenditure. And what is in total receipt? Revenue receipt plus capital receipt. Now what is excluded in this capital receipt? It is only debt creating capital receipt is excluded and non-debt creating capital receipt is included in it. Okay. Now, Government of India saw that most of the time why the fiscal deficit is high. Government of India saw that most of the time our fiscal deficit is very high. So what is the reason behind that? Why the fiscal deficit of India is so high? So they find out the major reason for that is they have to pay a lot of interest for it. they have to pay lot of interest on the loans that they had taken. As government has taken loan from various sources, the reason why this fiscal deficit is so high, because they have to pay so much of interest on that. So they find out a new term, that is primary deficit. What is primary deficit? Primary deficit means fiscal deficit minus interest payment. Fiscal deficit minus interest payment. So what is primary deficit? When we subtract interest payment from fiscal deficit, that is primary deficit. So what is primary deficit? When out of fiscal deficit, when you subtract interest payment, that is called as primary deficit. That is called as primary deficit. Okay? Is it clear to all? So they had computed primary deficit just to know that why our fiscal deficit is so high. So the reason is the interest payment is very high. So they calculate primary deficit, that is calculated through fiscal deficit minus interest payment. I hope it has been clear to you. Now, if suppose the fiscal deficit is continuously increasing, if the fiscal deficit of government is continuously increasing, what are the possible solution? How to correct the fiscal deficit? Now, this is again a very important question. How to correct fiscal deficit? How to correct fiscal deficit? Now, this is again a very important question. How the government need to correct this fiscal deficit? So how you can correct this fiscal deficit? The first thing is grants received from outside. Grant received from outside. The very first thing is grant received from outside. If you receive any kind of grant from outside countries, it is the best way to correct your fiscal deficit, as you need not to pay any interest on that. So this is the one of the way through which you can correct your fiscal deficit. Second is external borrowing. Second is external borrowing. This is again one of the way through which you will correct your fiscal deficit. This is again one of the way through which you correct your fiscal deficit. That is external borrowing. If you borrow from outside, there are some advantage of it. If you borrow from outside, there are some advantage of it. What are the advantage? What are the advantage of external borrowing? What all advantages we have if we borrow from outside, external borrowing, that is outside India? First, the loan is for long term loan. Interest rates are less. Interest rates are less. Third, less formalities and conditions. Less formalities and condition. Inflow of dollar, inflow of foreign currency. Inflow of foreign currency. Less pressure on domestic banks. Less pressure on domestic banks. Okay. And the best one is improves the brand image. Improve goodwill and brand image. Why? Because people will consider this thing that they have the relations with the outside countries also. So that will improve the brand image and goodwill also. So this is the advantage of external borrowing if you borrow it from outside. First of all, that is for long term. You will receive the less interest. Thirdly, less formalities and condition. Fourth, inflow of foreign currency. Fifth, less pressure on domestic banks. And sixth, it improves the goodwill and brand image of the organization. So these are the advantages of external commercial borrowing. I hope it is being clear to you all. What are the advantages of external commercial borrowing? Now, third is internal borrowing. Now, internal borrowing is not advisable. Why internal borrowing is not advisable? Because it put a lot of pressure on your domestic banks. It put lot of pressure on your domestic banks, and it is also called as monetized deficit. It is also called as monetized deficit. It also led to crowding out effect as well. Because if the government is taking loan from domestic banks, in that case, the private businesses will get less loan. And as a result of that, loan demand and loan supply gap increases. That will enhances the recession in the economy as well. That will enhances the recession in the economy as well. So that is the reason countries usually prefer not to borrow it from internally. The fourth one is printing of currency. Printing of currency. Now, this is the worst form to correct fiscal deficit. This is one of the worst form for correcting fiscal deficit. Yes, Preetham, you are right. Printing of currency is the worst form to correct fiscal deficit because it will lead to high inflation. It will lead to high inflation. Now, these are the methods through which you can correct your fiscal deficit. These are some of the methods through which you can correct your fiscal deficit. I hope it has been clear to you all how to correct fiscal deficit. Because if you are printing the currency, it will enhances the inflation in the economy. Because whenever there is lack of supply, you always print the currency and that will lead to more demand creation. So this will enhances the inflation. So these are the ways through which you can correct your fiscal deficit. Any doubt, any question in these? Any doubt, any question in these? Friends, our foundation batch started from yesterday. I am only taking this batch right now. I am starting this batch. I had started this batch. कल से मैंने इस बैच को पढ़ाना स्टार्ट किया था. कल मेरी फर्स्ट क्लास थी. कल हमने ओरिएंटेशन लिया था इकोनॉमी का. अगर आप चाहते हैं 2026 का अटेम्प्ट देना, if you want to give 2026 attempt, you all can join this foundation batch. This is for pre-plus means. This is for pre-plus means. The batch started from 10th of June. It is in complete English medium. Yesterday I had taken the first class. कल मैंने इसकी first class ली थी और बहुत सारे बच्चों ने उसको अटेंड भी किया था एंड आई थिंक दे ऑल लाइक इट एज वेल. तो अगर आप भी चाहते हैं 2026 का अटेम्प्ट देना, तो यू कैन ज्वाइन दिस फाउंडेशन बैच. देयर इज अ लिंक इन द डिस्क्रिप्शन. you can join the telegram. There is also a phone number. You can call on that number and ask about the details regarding to this foundation batch. कल ये बैच स्टार्ट हुआ है, तो अब आप ज़्यादा देर मत करिए. और ये बैच डेली होती है. इसमें क्लास शाम को 6 to 8:30 PM. इवनिंग 6 to 8:30 PM क्लास का टाइमिंग है. तो अगर आप चाहते हैं फाउंडेशन बैच ज्वाइन करना, तो दिस इज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट बैच. आई एम ओनली स्टार्टिंग द इकोनॉमी हेयर. मैंने कल इसमें पहली क्लास ली थी. कल मैंने थोड़ा सा ओरिएंटेशन दिया था इकोनॉमी का, और आज से इकोनॉमी की प्रॉपर क्लासेस स्टार्ट हो जाएंगी. बिल्कुल बेसिक्स से हम पढ़ रहे हैं, एनसीईआरटी लेवल से स्टार्ट करके और फिर एडवांस्ड लेवल तक. तो अगर आप चाहें तो इसके बैच को ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं. ये हमारा 10th जून से स्टार्ट हो गया है. नाउ, current types of budget we will discuss tomorrow. Let's discuss the FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. And Budget Management Act, popularly called as FRBM Act. Popularly called as FRBM Act. Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. Now, it was launched by Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, FRBM Act. The reason of launching this FRBM Act is to control the fiscal deficit of India, also to enhance fiscal stability, financial stability, fiscal prudence, and debt sustainability. So why FRBM Act was launched? To promote fiscal discipline, and prudence in management of and prudence in management of country's finance, management of country's finance and management of country's finance to reduce fiscal deficit and to manage central government debt and to manage central government debt at sustainable level, at sustainable level. Now this is the meaning of FRBM Act. This is the meaning of FRBM Act. This is the purpose of launching FRBM Act. Sorry. This is the purpose of launching FRBM Act to promote fiscal discipline and prudence in management of country's finance, reduce fiscal deficit and to manage government debt at sustainable level. This is the main purpose of launching FRBM Act. This is the main purpose of launching FRBM Act. Now under this FRBM Act, we have three type of statements. Three types of statement under FRBM Act. Under FRBM Act. We have three type of statements under FRBM Act. What all these three type of statement? First is medium term fiscal policy statement. Medium term fiscal policy statement. Medium term fiscal policy statement. Now, medium term fiscal policy statement means 3-year rolling targets. 3-year rolling target for a specific 3-year rolling target for specific fiscal indicators. For specific fiscal indicators, we have 3-year rolling target for specific fiscal indicator, including government strategies, including government strategies, including government strategies, fiscal policies and priorities. So this is the first statement, मीडियम टर्म फिस्कल पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट. मतलब इसमें क्या होता है, 3 साल के टारगेट्स बनाए जाते हैं. 3 साल के टारगेट्स बनाए जाते हैं रिगार्डिंग टू फिस्कल इंडिकेटर्स, जिसमें क्या क्या होता है, गवर्नमेंट की स्ट्रैटेजी, फिस्कल पॉलिसीज और प्रायोरिटीज ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. दिस इज मीडियम टर्म फिस्कल पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट. सेकेंड इज फिस्कल पॉलिसी स्ट्रैटेजी स्टेटमेंट. फिस्कल पॉलिसी strategy statement. Fiscal policy strategy statement. This is again very important. Strategic priorities, strategic priorities for government for fiscal year, strategic priorities for government for fiscal year and policies and rationale for major deviation in fiscal measures. Major deviation in fiscal measures. Now what is that? देखो क्या था, भारत का फिस्कल डेफिसिट लगातार बढ़ते जा रहा था एक समय पे, और वो इतना बढ़ता जा रहा था कि गवर्नमेंट के लिए एक पैनिक क्रिएट हो गया. तो गवर्नमेंट ने कहा, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी गवर्नमेंट ने कहा कि हमें किसी तरह से इस फिस्कल डेफिसिट को कम करना है. तो इसके लिए FRBM एक्ट लॉन्च हुआ, फिस्कल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी एंड बजट मैनेजमेंट एक्ट। अब इस FRBM एक्ट में 3 तरह के पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट बनाए गए। पहला था मीडियम टर्म फिस्कल पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट। मीडियम टर्म फिस्कल पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट में 3 साल के टारगेट्स बनाए गए कि किस तरह से गवर्नमेंट अपनी फिस्कल पॉलिसीज बनाएगी, अपनी स्ट्रेटजीज बनाएगी और प्रायोरिटीज फिक्स करेगी। फिर इसमें सेकंड आया फिस्कल पॉलिसी स्ट्रेटजी स्टेटमेंट, जिसमें यह कहा गया कि प्रायोरिटीज बनाई जाए गवर्नमेंट की करंट फिस्कल ईयर की, और उसमें यह बात करी गई कि भाई जब जब हम फिस्कल डेफिसिट ज्यादा हो रहा है या हम हमारे टारगेट से भटक रहे हैं तो उसके पीछे के मेजर रीजंस क्या हैं। दिस इज फिस्कल पॉलिसी स्ट्रेटजी स्टेटमेंट। तीसरा इसमें था मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक फ्रेमवर्क। मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक फ्रेमवर्क। नाउ व्हाट इज इंक्लूडेड इन मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक फ्रेमवर्क? मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक फ्रेमवर्क में क्या है? मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक मतलब पूरी इकोनॉमी का फ्रेमवर्क। असेसमेंट ऑफ ग्रोथ प्रोस्पेक्ट, assessment of growth prospect, assessment of growth prospect in economy, assessment of growth prospect in economy, assessment of growth prospect in economy including macroeconomic forecast, including macroeconomic forecast. Now this is the major objective here. What is that? Assessment of growth prospect in economy including macroeconomic forecast. This is regarding to how we can forecast our macroeconomy. So these are the framework made by the government under the FRBM Act. FRBM Act में 3 चीजें आई, फिस्कल पॉलिसी स्ट्रेटजी स्टेटमेंट, मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक फ्रेमवर्क एंड फिस्कल पॉलिसी मीडियम टर्म फिस्कल पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट। तो ये 3 तरह की चीजें यहां पर बताई गई। अब अगर हम बात करें इस FRBM एक्ट के फीचर्स क्या हैं, फीचर्स ऑफ FRBM Act. What are the major features of FRBM Act? If someone asks us what are the features of FRBM Act, the first is reduce fiscal deficit to be reduced to 3% of GDP. We need to reduce fiscal deficit to 3% of GDP. Then revenue deficit to be kept at zero. To be kept at zero. Revenue deficit को हमें zero पे लाना है. Third is borrowing restrictions for the government from RBI only for RBI from RBI. Borrowing restriction for government from RBI. Government cannot borrow unnecessarily from RBI. Only in exceptional circumstance they can borrow. Only in exceptional circumstance they can borrow. Otherwise there is no need to borrow. Otherwise there is no need to borrow. ठीक है? Otherwise there is no need to borrow. Then we have escape clause. Only in few conditions, only in few conditions, only in few conditions like natural disaster, war, then government can deviate from fiscal deficit. Deviate from fiscal deficit target. Now what is escape clause? Escape clause means you set up the fiscal deficit target, but if suppose any kind of war happen, natural disaster happen, in that case there is escape clause. Escape clause means only in those circumstances the fiscal deficit targets cannot be met. Because if war happen or natural disaster happen, then a relaxation can be there for fiscal deficit targets. I hope it is being clear to you all. What are the features of FRBM Act? Now, if what are the benefits of FRBM Act? What are the benefits of FRBM Act? What all benefits we have when we talk about FRBM Act? The first thing is fiscal deficit, ensure fiscal discipline by reducing expenditure. Ensure fiscal discipline by reducing expenditure and increase tax to GDP ratio. Increase tax to GDP ratio and reduce debt to GDP ratio. जितना टैक्स टू जीडीपी रेशियो बढ़ेगा, दैट सिंपली मींस कि हमारी जीडीपी में टैक्स कंट्रीब्यूशन ज्यादा है. और डेट टू जीडीपी रेशियो वी नीड टू रिड्यूस, दैट मींस डेट को हमें कम करना है. दिस इज अगेन अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट. देन एंश्योर ट्रांसपेरेंसी and accountability. Ensure transparency and accountability in decision making. And submission of report on timely basis. टैक्स टू जीडीपी रेशियो मींस आपकी जीडीपी में टैक्स का कंट्रीब्यूशन कितना है, या आप टैक्स से कितना जीडीपी जनरेशन हो रहा है. अगर मैं आपसे कहूं फॉर एग्जांपल, मैं 100 रुपए अपनी कंट्री में प्रोड्यूस कर रहा हूं, उसमें से 70 रुपीज टैक्स के फॉर्म में आ रहा है और 30 रुपीज डेट के फॉर्म में आ रहा है, तो वो अच्छी बात है, क्योंकि जितना टैक्स से पैसा आएगा और जो आपके जीडीपी फॉर्मेशन में काम करेगा, इट्स गुड. बट जितना डेट टू जीडीपी रेशियो बढ़ेगा उतना प्रॉब्लम है, क्योंकि आपको उस पर इंटरेस्ट पे करना पड़ेगा. So that is the meaning of this thing. Then great coordination with monetary policy. Now if it is an inflation time or if it is a recession time, if fiscal policy and monetary policy go hand in hand, it's always better. Because if inflation is more, repo rate will increase. This is contractionary monetary policy. Similarly, if the inflation is more, government will reduces the expenditure and increases the tax. This is the way through which coordination with monetary policy can work. And lastly, ensure macroeconomic stability. There must be macroeconomic stability. You must ensure that there must be macroeconomic stability. Reduction of inflation. ठीक है? Reduction of inflation. Better GDP. More employment. Reduction in poverty. These are the benefits of FRBM Act. Now, there are some challenges also. Some challenges under FRBM Act. What are the challenges of FRBM Act? First, there is low tax to GDP ratio in India. We have very low tax to GDP ratio. Why? Because most of the people try to evade the tax. Lots of corruption. People are not covering under the tax bracket. Okay. Poor tax efficiency correction. Then freebies and loan waiving off. Most of the time, during the election time, government provide the freebies. They also waiving off the loan of the farmers. Now that also enhances the fiscal deficit. That will enhances the fiscal deficit. Then lack of fiscal transparency. Lack of fiscal transparency. Most of the time the data is not available, or the data is manipulated, or the data is forged. Yeah, the Revdi culture, that's true. Lack of fiscal transparency. Then political resistance also. Political resistance also. So these are the major challenges associated with FRBM Act. That even we are trying to promote fiscal sustainability, we are trying to maintain fiscal deficit, but the problems are on the same level. The problems are on the same level. We tried a lot to control that, but still the problem is same. Now, what are the suggestions then? Suggestions. What all are the suggestions? How to make this FRBM Act more better? First of all, independent fiscal council. There must be strengthening of independent fiscal council. We must strengthen the independent fiscal council who can take independent decisions and who can let the debt management in a proper sense. Then improve data transparency and creditability. Improve data transparency and creditability. We need to improve data transparency and enhances the credibility in the system. जितना data transparency बेहतर होगा उतना ही चीजें strong होगी. Coordination between center and state. Enhance coordination between center and state. We need to enhance the coordination between center and state to have better fiscal federalism. To have better fiscal federalism. Then timely review of FRBM Act. There must be a timely review of FRBM Act. We must timely review the FRBM Act on a continuous basis. So these are the methods through which we can control that. Now, this year's budget estimate, fiscal deficit target is 4.4% of GDP. Fiscal deficit target for this year's budget estimate is 4.4% of GDP. Revenue deficit 1.8% of GDP. Still we are not able to make it less than 1%. Revenue deficit is 1.8%. And primary deficit 0.8% of GDP. These are the targets. Budget estimate. Fiscal deficit. I hope it has been clear to all of you. So friends, we also launched our test series from 8th of June. For those students who are getting more than 80 marks in this year's prelims, they can join this test series. Total number of tests will be 13. Test will be in both offline, online mode. If you want to give it in offline mode, you can attempt it from Delhi, Patna and Prayagraj. And also it is available in online mode. So you can appear in online mode as well. So I hope you all like this class. This is in today's regard. Tomorrow when we will start, into two time. First is बेटा जो फर्स्ट टाइम बजट था वो तो इलेक्शन से जस्ट पहले था, इसलिए वो एक तरह इंटरिम बजट था. इलेक्शन अनाउंस हो गए थे ना, 2024 में इलेक्शन थे, तो इंटरिम बजट था. ठीक है प्रीतम? सो आई होप यू ऑल लाइक दिस क्लास and I hope you all are enjoying this as well. Do share it with your friends. Do comment also in the comment section, and do like and subscribe our channel. So tomorrow we will discuss different types of budget exist in context of India. Different types of budget. Zero based budgeting, gender budgeting, performance budgeting, outcome budgeting. We will discuss tomorrow that and one more topic. So we'll discuss the budgeting part tomorrow also. I hope you all are liking it, and thank you so much that you all are attending it daily. Megha, Preetam, Malik, you all are attending it daily. That's a very good thing. That will give me confidence as well. So I hope that you all are enjoying it and continue this series. Any other doubt, any other thing that's from your side? Chalo, that's all from my side. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye. God bless you all.